All right, there you are. All right, so
Welcome.
introduce yourself.
I'm Avery Leveston, founder over at Cowboy Kush, the first cooperative style business here in Massachusetts.
Now there are official co-ops, but why don't you explain like the way that you are, the way you kind of developed yours?
Yeah, so, with our business model, typical cooperatives are an equal equity stake. So, each farmer, each little business will have an equal equity portion of the company, and that's how it will be structured.
As opposed to just using co-pack?
And so for us, I say cooperative style because we work with every different piece of the supply chain. Technically, I own 100% of the company, but the style of the business and the core is really partnerships, cooperation, and teamwork. Right.
So give us an example. How would it work? I'm a small cultivator.
Absolutely.
You approach me. How does that work?
Yeah. So I'll approach you. What I would do is I would figure out what your cost to produce is. That's the first question we always ask our cultivators to determine if they're even able to fit in our price range, right? So if they are, right, then we go down the alley and we say, okay, how much material are you gonna have access per month, right? So when we work to take on some of that, then we'll also find ways to potentially reduce their COGS, bring down their overhead so that, maybe the cost of production is a little bit lower for them, so their margins are higher. But long story short, once we take care of that product from them, we handle the rest of the supply chain. We keep it really easy for our farmers.
Now you handle it, and you're working with kind of one centralized location. Unlike a lot other people who are doing kind of similar models, you have a home base and storage. It doesn't mean that much to the consumer, but what does it mean to the consumer? What are you able to do with that?
Yeah, so we're really able to control a lot of aspects of the supply chain, right? We're starting to build out a logistics regimen, right? Send product from the farms, co-packers every 2 weeks. The shipments come back to the main storage vault. I utilize Apex Trading. It's an online software platform that really presents our menu in a really easy and efficient way. And so the products will come back to the storage vault. I'll upload them to Apex, work to deliver those products, and then I'll go out and service all of those retail partners as kind of the last step of that supply.
Now let's talk about the fun part.
There we go.
I'm currently smoking a truly outstanding pie cake. Where is that from? And give us a couple of your strains.
Yeah.
Where they're from and what's special about that relationship.
Yeah. So, each cultivator is very different in their own aspects, whether they grow differently, indoor, greenhouse, outdoor. That specific pie cake is going to be from Lazy River. They're an indoor cultivator located up in Drake, but very focused on the terpene profiles. And that's one of the core focuses over at Cowboy Kush. We're not like every other company that focuses on the THC. We really focus on the quality of the buds, right? And so that pie cake, perfect example, testing, in the teens, right? But our terpene levels are looking 2.5 to 3%. Unbelievable on that pie cake. And so, what we do is we're going to provide that pre-roll to consumers at a great price. And so that's just one example. Another.
Now, do the cultivators say we have this, or you like going through their menu and saying, we have a few strains already, we're looking for some Kush, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, what I've done here is I've been in the space 8 years, really focused on building a network and relationship to ultimately launch my own company. And so these are people that I built up relationships with for years. And they're people that I'm frequently touching base with on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, just to see what their bulk availability is like. Because, the unique aspect of cannabis, every plant's going to be grown differently. You might yield more 1 month, you might yield less. And so the amount of excess these farmers are going to have is going to vary. And so my job is to maintain that relationship with them continuously and almost be that first right of refusal. So they call me instead of someone else.
So if somebody's looking for, and we haven't talked about price point, but that's,
of course,
we're talking about real, serious weed, like good places, good cultivators, but, you're striving to have a reasonable price point, and they're selling as a result. So how does that work? I mean, is it because you're floating between places, you're able to do that? Or?
Yeah. So what we do is we've built a business where we have to procure product at a certain price range, a per pound price range. So that per pound price range is actually $400 to $600 a pound. And it's always between that number. What we'll do is we'll procure product from various farms throughout the state within that price range, but it will bring us to an average per pound price that we, have procured at, and that will allow us to offer at an everyday low price on the wholesale side.
So what are people finding most of these pre-rolls, these straights? And this is a full gram straight. What are they mostly selling for?
Yeah, most of this full gram straights are selling for around $5. So they're $5, $6 with tax. Full grams, always full flower. You know, that's our big focus. We're actually working with two companies right now. One is the Roll Pros. We're actually working to implement a certification to really show that pre-roll is full flower focused. It's not a trim or shake option. And then the second, which will be really, really advantageous to a lot of people, we're a very sustainable company. And so we're working with Repurpose Global. We're going to be the second cannabis operator in Massachusetts to work with Repurpose Global and determine a credit. They've actually given us a credit for every 1,000 units we purchase from them. Every 1,000 units of packaging is going to go back to removing plastic from all the oceans around the world. And so yeah, and so that's for our pre-roll tubes. That little seal will also be on the front label as well, but we are the second company in the state to offer that. Coast Cannabis is the first.
Killer.
Yeah.
So strains. What's I know a lot of this stuff is selling, so maybe it's hard to tell what's better than the other. But what are you maybe looking for? And what flies off the shelf? What are people? What's really clicked so far for Cowboy? And does this we haven't talked about Cowboy Cannabis? Does the branding impact the strains you're looking for, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I think the branding is a little bit separate. I wouldn't say it's a big focus of what we procure, right? But like I mentioned earlier, we have that quality standard. So that's the first thing, the first criteria that has to be met. We're really looking at any excess, from all the cultivators around the state. But what we found is, those buds that typically have the higher terpene levels are going to be the ones that we're going to be seeking. Furthermore, as sativas and or certain strain names, for instance, Blue Dream, are going to sell a little bit better. So we do have an eye on the market and kind of, we're more of a pulse on the market to figure out who's growing that, and even starting in January next year, I'll give you an example. One of our farms, they're an amazing facility named Greenfield Greenery, and they grow a humbled cut of Blue Dream. They get it out of Cali and grow it on their farm every year. We're going to be working with them in January to lock in potentially the first in Massachusetts cannabis futures contract, where we're going to contract with them over 12 months. We're going to take Blue Dream in from them on a monthly basis, whether it's 30, 40, 50 pounds of excess that they have, and they're going to continually get it to us every single month. We're going to write them a check up front, and then we're going to pay them the rest over time.
So why don't you go through those? What do you got?
Yeah.
And from who?
Yeah, so quite a few different options. We got the garlic butter today. The garlic butter and Blue Dream are from our outdoor side. I will say for the outdoor flower, we were very specific because it's, quality focus for us. There's only 2 outdoor cultivators that we worked with, and that's just because, we found the quality to only be met with those 2 facilities. Not saying that there's, not room for change in the future, but just at this time, we only work with 2. And so the Blue Dream and the garlic butter come from Greenfield Greenery. I will say the outdoors are mostly, and it's really interesting, they're actually most of our favorites. And I believe it's really due to the terpene complexity that comes out. That sunlight really hits and just provides different experience.
Also the cannabinoid,
the profile,
some of the stuff that comes out at the end and everything.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the cannabinoid diversity. I've really noticed a lot of minors, even available in these other strains, which is very unique. And then we have the pie cake, obviously from Lazy River. We had the Scrooge. This one's heavy in terpenoline, so like a pine sol, really reminiscent of like a lemony. This is going to be from Lazy River as well. And then who else do we have down here today? We have an OGKB. So this one's actually from Renew Cannabis. And so Renew or Berkeley Botanicals, they are, I don't know what town, I believe it's Milford, but they are an indoor facility. Actually, the same individual who runs that was actually my first boss in cannabis 8 years ago. His name's Matthew Raidbach, unbelievable individual. So my first gig was at Alternative Compassion Services. I was licensed by the Department of Public Health before the CCC was even an organization.
Salem?
No, right in Bridgewater. I worked with Stephen Werther to help open up ACS. I'll never forget Stephen installing the doorknob on the front door, before there was even a recreational program in the state.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess we should have started with it. But tell us, Cowboy Cannabis, where's the name come from? You usually have the cowboy hat as your hat suggests.
No, 110%. I threw on this little ball cap. I actually didn't change it out, but yeah, it's my other hat's a Stetson, and my Stetsons are the cowboy hats. But yeah, the Cowboy Kush, it really came from, my first off was down in Kentucky. I went to University of Kentucky for school, really learned about the agricultural side of things down there, went to the College of Agriculture. And so, that's where I started wearing Stetsons, brought it up here, I loved wearing a cowboy hat. And I actually, I'll tell you, the company idea came from a business card. I made a business card at some point in my lifetime that was just the shape of a cowboy hat, and it had Avery Leveston on the front. And then multiple clients kept telling me that I should brand this. There should be a way to really bring this to market. And so what I found a way to do was kind of merge some of those business tactics that I saw on the agricultural side down at University of Kentucky, and then also some of the problems in the market, and then merge it with the business card. And here we are today. It's just, that's how kind of Cowboy Kush came to fruition.
Well, with that background, actually, I can't let you leave without asking.
Yeah.
About hemp. I mean, so you must have studied it. Kentucky is, of course, the nerve center of all of this.
Yep.
The Farm Bill was passed because of Mitch McConnell.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see promise in hemp? Obviously, you're not dealing with that in the mass market right now, but is that something that you would be interested in with this brand? Shipping? I mean, clearly you have ambition.
Yeah. So I think, the cool thing is I was actually very interested in launching this company down in Kentucky. The Cowboy name definitely would have performed a little bit better culturally in Kentucky, but hey, look, we're here now. The market's here. I was actually going to be applying for a license down in Kentucky because they just legalized medical cannabis consumption earlier last year. Went through a lot of the regulatory, language. And fortunately, my stepmother is actually on the Medical Cannabis Advisory Board. So she administers the licenses in Kentucky and kind of works to help on some of the regulations, the changes. But there were a lot of problems in the market. And so what I determined is it's not the right time to enter the market. I'm going to come up to Massachusetts, build the business up here. And once Kentucky really gets its act together, I mean, they still got a ways.
Yeah, but on the hemp side.
Yeah.
Interest you at all? Or?
So on the hemp side, I think I would definitely be interested. I actually talked to my brother yesterday about potentially looking to launch like a vape line where we could, contract with hemp companies, distill it. But that's a ways out right now. We really, really want to stay focused on just the flower side and really building a family out here in Massachusetts. Going back to one of the core reasons we started this company, there's so much individualism, verticals coming in, trying to do their own thing. But in reality, if you look at standardized agricultural, everything is done through a cooperative or teamwork, right? Logistics companies and manufacturing companies and farmers, they all work as a team to get products to the grocery store. So why aren't we doing this in cannabis? And that's what we're going to be focusing on for a minute.
Beautiful, man.